Historically, existing laws are defined over time, some laws over generations, through sacrifices that have been a manner of injustice. For instance, the Law 871, which I'm familiar with myself, was taken from a statute of treasons that went back to ancient Europe, the original law being to imagine or compass the death of the king, which is now a thing of comedy in European television that there ever was such a law, being the case that for one instance it said that an individual owned a hotel called The Crown, being the name of the hotel, and he told his son that if he behaved himself, then someday he would inherit the crown, and he was hanged, drawn, and quartered because they demanded their right to prosecute this person, claiming that he was referring to the king's crown as opposed to his hotel named The Crown. The definitions of law have been defined throughout history through such sacrifices and injustice, as if the learning of common sense, which goes throughout history, we learn from the mistakes of history, our own personal past, we learn from our own mistakes. And as a civilization, the civilized world as a whole, we learn from the earth's history. The Patriot Act and similar laws are new. This means they are still roughly defined. The fact being that they would be easy to abuse. As it stands, any individual could claim something against a person and use that for stalking purposes, political agendas, political harassment, whatever the case may be, or any other sort of mischief, because you have to look at where the law come from and what its purpose is to actually understand the law and its purpose. This counts with any law. Just because words are on a piece of paper and you memorize those words doesn't necessarily mean you have any understanding of those words whatsoever, which gets into a major law reform issue in terms of using technical law against citizens when actually the law itself was not designed to be used as technical words against anyone, no matter what law it is, unless that law was a mistake to begin with. The Patriot Act is brand new. It says pretty much, and I have not read the whole thing. It says pretty much that in the act of obtaining evidence, a person has no civil rights, meaning that if the proper authorities think a person is into related mischief that is defined under the Patriot Act, then they can use the Patriot Act for surveillance. The fact being, common sense, if someone were tapping a phone, if they did not have enough to get a legitimate search warrant, a legitimate warrant to tap that phone within a reasonable amount of time, then it could only be said that that is a violation of human rights and a violation of privacy, defining the Patriot Act in those terms as an emergency use only thing. That means you can, if you are the proper authorities, can use the Patriot Act and similar laws to obtain enough evidence to get a legitimate warrant, but if you haven't got enough evidence in a manner of time, then it could be said that you are in violation of human rights, an invasion of privacy, it not being possible to break the law in the process of enforcing the law without it being illegitimate. It is very important to understand the substance of any law if you are a defense attorney or a prosecutor or a judge, a defendant or a jury member. Substance is the issue, the actual reason for the law being the base of the law. It being a problem when many use the wording and adopt that wording into their own understanding, which bypasses the actual substance of the law and bypasses the law and therefore is not legitimate. Words don't mean anything without meaning, and twisting words within the confines of a law in a court system is obstruction of justice. That means the concept of it could be said is a prankster trick used in court, the it could be said attitude. If it's not actually the case, it's obstruction of justice. There is no way to justify the use of the Patriot Act to stalk a person or to invade that person's privacy. Again, if it goes beyond an emergency, if you haven't got enough legitimate warrantness to obtain the legal justification, the judge signing a warrant, whatever the case may be, for you to continue the surveillance, then it is not warranted. There is no way it could be said it could be. This going into social issues and stalking and human rights as opposed to civil rights. The new laws say that a person being under surveillance, the Patriot Act, for instance, allows the proper authorities to bypass civil rights, but in common sense terms, that is only for emergency use only until justification for a legitimate warrant can be signed. Otherwise, there is no legitimate excuse.